Happy Halloween, and welcome to the final chapter in Crystal Clear. I'm AC Dawn, author and narrator. Please keep in mind, this isn't your typical professionally produced audiobook. It's a personal reading and a chance for you to hear the story as it echoes in the mind of its creator. I have so enjoyed sharing this story with you. Without further delay, I give you the conclusion of Crystal Clear. Chapter 11. Demons screeched at the top of their voices as the conclusion of the vampire duel drew near. The vampires locked onto one another, fangs buried, trying to suck the life from the other before theirs was leached away. There were only moments left before one of them was victorious. Do not hesitate. Great goddess, help me. I prayed silently and moved so I stood directly behind Mariana. Jason! I yelled over the cacophony of demon noise and waved the dagger over my head. His eyes held that unfocused, barely aware look I'd seen earlier. He tracked my movement, but I didn't think he knew me. If I got in the middle of their struggle to the death without Jason in his right mind, I'd end up as the next item on the menu. I stretched out my magic, soothing and steady, like I would with a frightened animal. Let go, Jason. Let go. I said it over and over again, trying to make a connection through the primal grip of bloodlust. Jason's gaze met mine, snaring me in a hypnotic hold. Chaos erupted in my mind. Hunger and need beat through me with an all-consuming desperation. I struggled in the face of the furious onslaught. My magic slipped away from me, sliding through my mind like water through my fingers. The hilt of the knife in my hand burned hot, responding to the bloodthirsty desire coursing through me. I tightened my grip on it, focusing on the pain. Digging my nails into my palm, I fought against Jason's hold. I tried again to make him hear me. Jason, Vampire King, hear me. I call to you with the magic of the goddess, the magic that binds our people. Magic rose and the words came from somewhere beyond me. I channeled the power with a single-minded focus on Jason. Understanding slowly emerged, and awareness took root in his dark eyes. With an expression of pain and struggle, he tore his mouth away from Mariana's neck. She didn't even flinch. She smiled and reached up to Jason as if to draw him down to her for a kiss. I drove the dagger into Mariana's back with all my strength. She screamed and whirled around to face me, eyes blazing. With a blur of movement, she raked her nails across my face, opening parallel gashes. Covering my cheek with my hand, I stumbled backward. My feet got tangled up in my skirt and I went down on my ass. I'll rip you open, witch. She rasped around her blood-smeared fangs. She dove, arms extended and fangs flashing. With an enraged roar, Jason grabbed her from behind. His hands closed over her mouth, muffling her shrieks. I couldn't look away as Jason tore out her throat. Dark blood sprayed in an arc as he separated Mariana's head from her body. Her sightless eyes met mine and seemed to see straight into my soul. I gasped and scuttled backwards. My stomach churned and the sickening, ripping sound of Mariana's flesh echoed in my ears. Like a pitcher throwing a fastball, Jason threw Mariana's head into the portal as her body crumbled to dust. Adelaide, the portal! Jason shouted as the roaring rose to a crescendo. I stared at the swirling hellfire. Instead of the rioting flames, the fire swirled clockwise, opening a gaping hole in its middle. The blood price had been paid. The portal was open for business. The shadows coalesced and advanced, taking shape as they neared the portal. With horrified fascination, I watched the demons fight to be the first to cross over, while Mariana's lifeless yet penetrating gaze refused to leave my thoughts. Hurry! We cannot let them pass! He pulled me up and dragged me toward the portal. I fought to get away from him. Goddess help me, I needed to get out of there, away from vampires and death and demons. Jason gripped my shoulders and gave me a little shake. Do not falter now, Adelaide. You must do this. Over his shoulder, the spirits of the damned returned to the morgue. Avarice danced in their faces as they stared into the portal. Tentacles and claws and arms pushed through the fire. The spirits screeched with excitement as the demons grew closer to crossing over. Granny shouldered her way through the crowd of spirits, the beads around her neck swinging. She made a cutting motion with her hand. The spirits fell silent and rushed out of the room. Even on the other side of the veil, Granny was one kick-ass witch. Do not hesitate. The fate of the world balances on a knife's edge. Her voice rang in my head as she repeated her earlier message. She held my gaze for a moment longer before disappearing into the spectral mass. I was a Buckley, and I had a job to do. I could cry over the terrifying vampires in my almost all-expense-paid trip to hell later. Determined, I turned back to the portal. The only thing holding the demons back was they were all trying to get through it at once. Beside me, Jason's legs buckled, and he dropped to his knees, sagging under the toll of his wounds. I turned to him, alarmed. "Oh, goddess, we have to get you out of here," I said, eyeing his still bleeding wound. "The portal must be closed." Jason gritted the words out, gripping my hand. I squeezed back, ready to help him to his feet, but a vision swam into focus. Another of the Vampire King's countless memories. A witch chanted beside a gaping hole in the earth as hellfire poured from it. She drew a knife across her palm and walked in a circle around the portal, dripping blood on the ground. In a commanding voice, she ordered the portal closed in the name of the goddess. Gossamer strands of magic arced over the portal as she spoke. Summoning the ground, the witch pulled the edges of the hole closed. The fire darkened, and the earth stitched together, leaving no trace of the pit. The vision cleared, and I blinked my eyes to focus back on the present portal, with a pounding heart and a throbbing head. The horde blotted out the fire, and a demon with a face like a Halloween horror mask forced his shoulders between two of his fellows. He gripped the door jamb and heaved, levering his torso through the portal. "That was another one of your ancestors, Adelaide. Trust your instincts," Jason shouted over the roaring. Frantically, I chanted the first words that came to mind, the goddess's prayer of light. A simple prayer I'd learned as a child, but it was all I could think of. The horror show demon was almost through, and I fought for calm. My mind raced. I replayed the steps that the witch, in Jason's memory, had done. The circle of blood around the door shimmered red, but it wasn't complete. On the hinge side of the door, the circle didn't connect. I grabbed a shard of glass from the floor, but before I could cut my palm, Jason's hand shot out to stop me. "Use mine." He guided my hand to the oozing wound at his neck. I jerked my hand away, fearing the vampire's blood. Years of ingrained prejudice against vampires warned me away from it. A single drop of vampire blood could enthrall me or leave me addicted and enslaved to the vampire. Plus, it turned my stomach to think of dipping my fingers into another creature's blood and smearing it on the wall like some twisted finger painting. "Do not hesitate." Granny's voice rang through my mind as the demon's leg pushed through the portal. Trying not to grimace, I tugged the sticky fabric away from Jason's wound and coated my fingers in the dark red blood. I closed the circle with a quick swipe and wiped my hands on my tattered skirt. Witch and vampire blood bubbled where it met, and the ring of crimson around the portal glowed bright white. I stepped away as a web of light formed across the opening of the portal. The demon shrieked and grabbed the edge of the door. It writhed and jerked as the web ensnared it. Fire leapt back to life behind the light. I grabbed the silver door and slammed it shut. I raised my voice to a shout that hurt my throat. "Demons of hell, I close this portal in the name of the goddess. You are not welcome here. Return to your dark places and come no further." Magic rolled through me in a surge. I pressed my palms against the door and channeled all my will into sealing the portal. I said it over and over until no more hellfire leaked from around the edge. Panting with sweat trickling down my face, I turned to lean on the wall and sucked in a gasping breath. "Your grandmother was quite right. She said you were going to be extraordinary." Jason sat on the floor, dark blood still oozing from the bite mark on his neck and the knife wound in his chest. "Oh, goddess, you're not healing." I dropped to my knees next to him, rifling through my mind for healing spells and potions. None of them would help a vampire. "Well, being immortal does have its advantages. It will not kill me, but it hurts like the dickens." He sighed and swiped a weary hand over his pale face. "And it weakens me. I'll need a witch to help me sort it out." He pushed to his feet, weaving slightly, and straightened his shirt, covering the worst of the wounds. "As it happens, I've recently made the acquaintance of a particularly intelligent and powerful witch. Perhaps she would be so kind as to lend me her assistance once again." He gave me a heart-stopping grin as he offered his hand to help me up. I smiled up at him and drank in his bedroom brown eyes and handsome features. I gripped his hand and stood up, sweeping a look over the devastation. This is going to delay the opening, I said, wondering what story the coven would have to concoct to cover up what really happened. Well, the escape of a horde of demons would have delayed it far worse. Well, I couldn't argue with that. I tore a piece of fabric off my skirt and wrapped the knife in it. We would need to steady it to help Jason heal. He held my hand as we left the shambles of the morgue. A thought skittered through my mind that flipped the switch on my anxiety again. Mariana isn't going to just sleep until the next rising, is she? We stopped in the foyer. Greenish light flooded the area as the protection spell continued to encase the hospital. Jason looked out over the coven of witches with a sad expression. There are difficult times ahead that will try the bonds of friendship and test long-held prejudices. Mariana was right about one thing. The strength of legends and prophecies lies in the belief. This era is dark and dangerous. Magic has dimmed and the shadows rule. If the world grows too dark and allows her or the Dark Lord passage, they can rise at any time. He stared pensively out into the green glow before continuing. She had help to open that portal tonight, on both sides of the veil. That is the Blade of Set. He pointed at the dagger in my hand. It didn't find its way to her on accident. Mariana will never stop trying to be free of her bonds, but we have a little time. She will have to start her efforts again, and her master will not be pleased with her failure tonight. I nodded and chewed my lip. You're going back to sleep now, aren't you? The thought made my heart hurt. Jason lifted an elegant shoulder. I only sleep because living day to day for an eternity is dreadfully boring. I also need to see these wounds tended, and I cannot rest until I know the meeting place of the next seer. He paused and regarded me with a question in his eyes. I shook my head. The curtain remained fixedly closed on my sight. Jason traced the cuts on my cheek lightly with his fingers. His touch cooled their sting, and his eyes took on a smoky look. My stomach flipped at the look of smoldering desire. My arms twined around his neck as I lifted my face to meet his kiss. With my mind firmly shielded, Jason's cool lips fitted to mine in a caress that sent tingles of excitement racing through me. His hands roamed over my curves, pulling me closer as his tongue explored my mouth with teasing strokes. Goddess, he knew how to kiss. Each touch, each taste, held a promise of pleasures to come that made my knees weak and heat surge through me. With a sigh of satisfaction, Jason murmured against my lips, Besides, my sweet Adelaide, I believe this age possesses things that are worth staying awake for. He skimmed kisses along my jaw and down my neck. Like what? I sighed the words out as I rode a wave of pure bliss. He brushed another kiss across my lips before he straightened and said, To begin with, I must know what a Jiffy Lube is. If lube is what I think it is, you certainly shouldn't be in a hurry when using it. He gave me another one of those smoldering looks. I'll explain later. And I bit my lip as his comment conjured images in my mind. A giddy excitement slid through me, despite the dangerous times approaching. The Day of the Dead had begun while we had been battling Mariana and her demons, and with it came a new season and a new chapter in my life. I didn't need second sight to know that come what may, I would stand beside the Vampire King and face the new dawn. The end. I hope you've enjoyed Crystal Clear. If you'd like to explore more of my books, I'm in all the major retailers, or you can subscribe to gain access to my entire backlist on my Ream subscription. You'll get instant access to Crystal Clear, the Myth Reimagined series, the Southern Fried Sorcery series, several short stories, and much more. I hope to see you there.